There is a bag of dried leaves in my kitchen that carries more protein, gram for gram, than the steak in most people's freezers. It costs almost nothing. In a lot of yards it grows on its own and gets pulled up and thrown away every summer. Before we start, let me be honest with you about how this comparison works, because most videos that make this claim quietly cheat. Cooked beef runs about 26 grams of protein per 100 grams. Chicken breast runs about 31. Those are the numbers we are measuring against, and I am not going to move the goalposts. Now, the catch. A fresh green leaf is mostly water, sometimes 90% of it. So when you see a plant beat beef, that comparison is being made dry, with the water taken out. That is a fair comparison, because that is how you actually store and use these plants, but you deserve to know it is being made. Where a plant only wins on a technicality, I will say so. So here are 12 plants that carry more protein than meat, or come close enough that it changes how you should shop. Number 7 is the one almost nobody knows, and there is a good chance it is growing within 50 feet of where you are sitting. Number 12. Oats. About 13 grams of protein per 100 grams, dry. That is half of beef, so it does not win outright, and I am not going to pretend it does. But look at what it costs. Oats are one of the cheapest foods in any store, and that 13 grams comes with fiber, and with a slow release of energy that keeps a person steady through a morning of work. Nobody thinks of oats as a protein food. They should. A large bowl of oats carries more protein than an egg. Number 11. Quinoa. About 14 grams per 100, dry, and here is what makes it different. Quinoa is a complete protein. It carries all 9 of the amino acids your body cannot make for itself, in usable amounts, which is rare in the plant world. Most plants are strong in some amino acids and short in others. Quinoa is not short. It was a staple in the Andes for thousands of years, for exactly that reason, and it will keep in a jar for years. Number 10. Amaranth. About 14 to 15 grams per 100, dry, and also close to complete. Amaranth was a staple grain of the Aztecs. The Spanish tried to stamp it out, and it survived anyway, because it grows like the weed it partly is. You can grow it in a poor corner of a garden in bad soil and get both the grain and the leaves. The leaves are edible too, cooked like spinach. If this is the kind of thing you want more of, subscribe. This channel exists to dig up exactly this sort of forgotten, practical knowledge. Number 9. Chia seeds. About 17 grams per 100. Chia holds several times its weight in water, which is why it swells into a gel, and that gel slows digestion and keeps you full. The plant is a member of the mint family and grows readily in warm climates. 2 tablespoons carry about 4 grams of protein, along with a real amount of fiber and omega-3 fats. Number 8. Sunflower seeds. About 21 grams per 100, and they will grow almost anywhere in America with no attention at all. A row of sunflowers along a fence gives you seed heads that dry on the stalk. 21 grams puts them within striking distance of beef, at a fraction of the price, and you can raise them in soil that will not grow much else. Number 7. Stinging nettle. This is the one. Dried nettle leaf runs around 25 to 30 grams of protein per 100 grams. That is beef territory, from a plant that most people treat as an enemy. Nettle grows wild across nearly all of North America and Europe, in ditches, along fence lines, at the edges of gardens, in any ground that has been disturbed. It stings, which is exactly why it gets pulled out and never eaten. But the sting is delicate. The plant defends itself with tiny hollow hairs that break on contact and inject formic acid. Cook the leaves for even a minute, or dry them properly, and every one of those hairs collapses. The sting is gone completely. There is nothing left to fear. What remains is a dark green leaf with protein comparable to meat, plus iron, plus calcium, plus vitamin K. Country people across Europe have eaten nettle soup in spring for centuries, at the exact time of year when winter stores ran out and nothing else was green yet. That is not folklore. That is a population solving a hunger problem with the first protein that came up out of the ground. Harvest the young tops in spring, wearing gloves. Steam them, or dry them and crush them into a powder you can put into anything. And do not take them from a roadside or from ground that has been sprayed. Number 6. Lentils. About 25 grams per 100, dry. Lentils have fed more people through more hard winters than almost any other crop on earth. They cook in 20 minutes without soaking, they store for years, and a pound of them costs less than a cup of coffee. 25 grams is essentially beef, and lentils will sit patiently in your pantry for a decade waiting to prove it. Number 5. Peanuts. About 26 grams per 100, that is beef, matched exactly, and peanuts are not even a nut. They are a legume that grows underground, and they were one of the crops that rebuilt exhausted southern soil, because like all legumes they pull nitrogen out of the air and put it back into the ground. Number 4. Moringa. Dried moringa leaf powder runs about 27 grams of protein per 100 grams, which puts it past beef. The tree grows fast in hot, dry places where very little else will, and the leaves can be picked continuously. Aid organizations have used moringa for decades in regions with real malnutrition, for a simple reason. A tree that produces protein-dense leaves through a drought is worth more than a crop that fails. A word of caution, because I would rather you hear it from me. Moringa leaf is well tolerated in food amounts. The root and root bark are a different matter and should be left alone. And if you are pregnant or on medication, talk to a doctor before making it a daily habit. Number 3. Pumpkin seeds. About 30 grams per 100. 30 grams. That is past beef and closing on chicken breast, and every autumn most of America scoops these out of a jack-o'-lantern and throws them in the bin. Rinse them, dry them, roast them low, and you have one of the most protein-dense things you can eat. They also carry a serious amount of magnesium and zinc. Number 2. Hemp seeds. About 31 grams per 100, which puts them level with chicken breast. Hemp seed is also a complete protein, with all 9 essential amino acids, and it is unusually easy to digest. The plant grows so well with so little that it was one of the founding crops of American agriculture, before politics removed it from the fields for most of a century. And number 1, spirulina. About 57 grams of protein per 100 grams, not 26, 57. More than double beef, by dry weight, from something that is not even a plant in the strict sense. It is a blue-green algae, and it is one of the most protein-dense foods ever measured. It grew in the lakes of central Mexico, and the Aztecs harvested it off the water in mats, dried it in the sun, and cut it into cakes. Around Lake Chad in Africa, the same practice continued for generations. NASA has looked at it for long-duration spaceflight, for the obvious reason that it produces more protein per square foot of surface than anything else we know how to grow. 2 honest cautions. Because algae absorbs what is in its water, source matters enormously. Buy from a producer that tests for heavy metals and for microcystins, and do not gather it wild, and it tastes strongly of the pond it came from. A teaspoon in something with a strong flavor is how most people manage it. 2 more worth naming, because they cost nothing and they grow where you already walk. Lamb's quarters, which many people call pigweed, comes up in disturbed ground all over North America. Fresh, the leaves run about 4 grams of protein per 100, which sounds unremarkable until you remember that is a leaf that is mostly water. Dried, it climbs into the same range as nettle. It tastes milder than spinach, and it does not sting. Farmers spend money every year killing it. Purslane is the other one. It sprawls low across gravel and cracks in paths, and gets treated as a nuisance. It carries a modest amount of protein, but it holds more omega-3 fat than any other leafy green ever measured. Thoreau ate it. Most of the country sprays it. Now, how do you actually use any of this in a real kitchen without turning your life into a project? 3 ways, and none of them require you to change how you cook. The first is powder. Dry the leaves, nettle or moringa, or lamb's quarters, until they crumble between your fingers. Crush them and keep them in a jar out of the light. A spoonful goes into soup, into stew, into a sauce, into eggs, and nobody at the table will detect it. This is the oldest method there is, because it turns a green that spoils in 3 days into a protein that keeps for a year. The second is seeds by the handful. Pumpkin, sunflower, hemp, and chia need no preparation at all. Keep a jar on the counter and put them on whatever you are already eating. 30 grams of pumpkin seeds carries roughly 9 grams of protein, which is more than a large egg. The third is the pot. Lentils, oats, quinoa, and amaranth all cook in one vessel with water and salt, and all 4 store for years in a sealed jar. This is the layer of your pantry that does not care whether the power is on or the store has stock. None of that is complicated. It is just not the way food is sold to us. Now let me tell you the part that matters more than any single number on this list. Protein quantity is not the whole story. Protein quality is the amino acid profile, how complete it is, and how well your body absorbs it. Animal protein generally scores higher on absorption. Most single plants are short in one amino acid or another, which is why traditional food cultures paired them without knowing the chemistry. Beans with rice, lentils with wheat, corn with beans. Those pairings were not an accident. Each one covers the other's gap. So the practical answer is not to pick one plant off this list and lean on it. It is to eat several across a week and let them fill in each other's shortfalls. Quinoa and hemp and spirulina are complete on their own. The rest work best in company. And notice what this list actually costs. Oats, lentils, sunflower seeds, peanuts, and pumpkin seeds are among the cheapest foods in any store in America. Nettle is free and growing in the ditch. The most expensive things here, moringa and spirulina, are used a spoonful at a time. One more thing worth understanding before we go, because it explains why this list exists at all. A cow does not manufacture protein out of nothing. It eats grass and leaves, and its body assembles that plant protein into muscle, losing most of the energy along the way. Roughly speaking, it takes several pounds of plant protein to produce 1 pound of beef protein. Every animal on every farm is a machine for converting plants into meat at a loss. So when a plant on this list carries 30 grams of protein per 100, that is not a curiosity. That is the source material, before the loss. You are simply reading the ledger one step earlier than most people do. There is a quiet lesson in that. For most of human history, protein was not a thing people bought in a package. It was pulled out of the ground, dried on a roof, gathered off the water, or picked with gloves at the edge of a field where nobody else was looking. That knowledge is not gone. It is just not advertised, because nobody makes much money selling you a weed. Go and look at the edge of your garden this week. There is a fair chance that something on this list is already growing there, waiting to be recognized.